As New South Wales contact tracers work to contain the outbreak, other states and territories are shutting up shop. Some dusting off old barriers, others putting them up for the first time. Queensland closed its border to anyone from Greater Sydney at 1 a.m. and just hours later had already turned away 115 travellers. They include a woman who lied about where she'd come from at 2 separate checkpoints, earning herself a huge fine.
We will allege that she gave a false account and that she falsely applied for a declaration pass. So she was refused entry into the state and given a $4,003 infringement notice.
Down south, Victoria took longer than hoped to get its checkpoints up and running, allowing 17 people to slip through from the hot zones. They'll now be kept in mandatory quarantine until 2021.
My message to anyone trying to enter Victoria from New South Wales is don't. You won't get in, and if you do, you'll be spending your time at Christmas and New Year in hotel quarantine.
Fortunately, Victoria's only recorded a single COVID case from interstate, a 15-year-old girl who arrived on December 18th after visiting at least 3 flagged Sydney businesses.
Quite a range.
But the reinstated borders are a further frustration for New South Wales.
There are parts of New South Wales completely unaffected by this current outbreak, and yet everybody in New South Wales is suffering because other state leaders have made decisions.
We haven't made money every month. In fact, the last 20 days since the border was open have been our best days for trade, and the next 2 days are just critical.
Sam's restaurant is just a few hundred metres from the Queensland border, and many would-be customers are now stuck on the other side.
30 to 40% of our customers come from Queensland. It may be greater than that. We've got 200 lobsters in stock. We've got 500 dozen Coffin Bay oysters that just arrived today. That's a lot of money, but we also don't want to waste the stock.
So can these businesses survive a Christmas boom turned to bust? Richmond Berman-Hardman is the operator of Skyrails in Cairns, and he joins us now. Richard, when we spoke to you around a month ago, you were so relieved that things were finally opening back up, but how is the new closure impacting you?
Hi guys, hello from Cairns. As you can appreciate, it's we're like the Grand Old Duke of York at the moment. 1 minute we're up and then we're down. With the announcement of the border closure, the hard border in New South Wales, it's it's tough to take. New South Wales probably constitute around a quarter of our visitors at this time of the year, so now we have to spin on a dime and find a quarter of our visitors from somewhere else. So it's upsetting to say the least.
Richard, the JobKeeper rate is set to drop again in the new year. What impact is that going to have on your business?
Yeah, look, it's going to be very, very difficult. So from memory, I think it's the 4th of January. The payments that started at $750 a week went down to $600 and then down to $500. We're similar to most people operating in the tourism industry up here. In a majority of our staff are working on or around their JobKeeper hours. We top as many people up as we can, but obviously we don't have the cash simply because we're operating with reduced capacities and people aren't here. So our intention as a business is to hold on to everyone, and we'll be dipping into our back pocket and making a short to medium term loss for a long term gain because we want our staff. We're a family business. We're lucky we're a larger operation. We're one of the biggest operators here in Cairns and probably one of the biggest operators north of Brisbane. Not everybody's our size. So for people who are stuck earning $500 a week or less, that's a significant blow, and we expect right across the tourism industry, actually across Australia, that people will be, or if they're not already, looking to exit the industry, unfortunately, and that doesn't bode well for all of us in tourism.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a terrible development, Richard, and I suppose the thing that we've learnt so far is that this kind of will keep happening. There will be outbreaks, and for better or for worse, the premiers will shut borders. That is how they will respond, especially in your state. So how do you, as a business, cope with that certain uncertainty, if you know what I mean? Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it.
Their modus operandi is certainly to shut borders, and I'm not going to judge a politician for doing so. Look, frankly, I don't think the industry globally, let alone in Cairns or Australia, can continue to deal with borders opening, borders closing and that uncertainty. I know that other parts of the world, other airports, airlines and countries are looking at rapid antigen testing. So you test before you rest, so to speak. I'm not sure if that's the solution, but I think governments within Australia, and I mean governments, federal and state governments, probably need to start thinking outside the square, because I don't think that our industry can be sustained, and I'm not sure that the silver bullet is the vaccine, based on the fact that you can still contract the disease if you're standing next to someone who's had the vaccine. So We need some form of think tank, and I urge governments to really think this through and to work out what's the contingency if the vaccine doesn't do what we need it to do.
All the best, Richard. We hope that business continues to be strong. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much, you too. Thanks, everyone.